Hello everyone, and welcome to the Pandas Exercise SF Salaries Solutions lecture. In this lecture, we're going to go over the solutions for the SF Salaries Pandas exercise. Let's go ahead and jump to the Jupyter Notebook to get started. Alright, here we are at the Jupyter Notebook. This is just a quick exercise for you to sharpen your Pandas skills and get used to working with pandas and real data sets. In this case, we're going to be using SF Salaries dataset from Kaggle. And again, you can click the link here and it will take you to the actual data source with some more information and some other examples of data analysis. But let's go ahead and get started with the salaries exercise. I'm going to go ahead and import pandas as PD. And then let's go ahead and read salaries.csv as a data frame called sal. So that's going to be pd.read.csv. And a nice trick here is you begin typing it, use tab to autocomplete. And let's go ahead and check the head of this data frame. You just call it as a method. Looks like we have ID, employee name, job title, base pay, overtime pay. Let's go ahead and just make this 2 rows. And other pay, benefits, total pay benefits, which is basically total pay plus benefits, the year, any notes, agency, and status. Now let's go ahead and use the info method to find out how many entries there are. So I'm going to go ahead and say sal.info, and this info method returns the number of columns and the number of entry rows. Now I want to know what's the average base pay. Let's go ahead and call our data frame. We'll grab the base pay column. I'm going to use tab autocomplete for ease of use here. And then average, in this case I just mean a mean. So we can call the mean off of this, and it returns that the mean base pay is $66,325. The reason I used the word average here instead of saying mean was just to make sure I didn't give away the answer completely. Alright, now what is the highest amount of overtime pay in the data set? What we're going to go ahead and do is grab the overtime pay column and then just call max off of it. And this will return the maximum amount of overtime pay, which in this case was quite substantial, $245,131. Okay, now what is the job title of Joseph Driscoll? And the note is to use all caps here, otherwise you may get a different answer. So I'm going to say sal. I'm going to look for job title, and in this case it's actually just called job title as a single word, so I'm going to say job title. And notice here I have a bunch of job titles, so I want to find out the row where this matches up to someone named Joseph Driscoll. So I'm going to go ahead and say this. I will say sal employee name equals, and then in strings, all caps, Joseph Driscoll. And I will put that into, sal. And here I have the row where Joseph Driscoll in all caps is here. So his job title is Captain of Fire Suppression. And if I just wanted that column back, I could furthermore just call it job title off of this, as we showed earlier, and then grab Captain of Fire Suppression. Now I want to know how much does Joseph Driscoll make. And again, you need to use all caps here to get the matching answer. We're going to go ahead and say sal employee name equals Joseph Driscoll. Note we have his row here, and I want to know how much he makes including benefits. So that's total pay benefits. And I can actually just grab that row on top of this. So total pay benefits. And it looks like the answer is $270,324. Keep in mind, if you accidentally forgot to put this in all caps and said Joseph Driscoll, you would actually get another answer. So he's actually in here twice, so keep that in mind. In order to have your answers match up to the solutions, just use all caps. Now we want to know what's the name of the highest paid person, including benefits. There's quite a few ways to do this, but let's go ahead and do the most straightforward way. So I'm going to get total pay benefits, and if I call the max value here, note that I get the maximum total pay benefits, but I want to know the name of who's actually receiving this. So I can say this. I can say sal of total pay benefits equals sal.max. If I run this, this returns Boolean values. And note, I just have one true. It's actually the first person in the data frame. And then I can pass that into Sal in order to actually grab his name, which is Nathaniel Ford. And if I just wanted the name, I could say employee name off of this and get his name, Nathaniel Ford. Okay, that's one way to do it. A more advanced way to do this, and we actually haven't gone over this method, but is to use sal.loc, where sal of total pay benefits dot idxmax, and this is essentially almost like an argmax method, and this returns some information as well, and it will return Nathaniel Ford. This is a more advanced method, so you can look up idxmax, but it's very similar to NumPy's argmax. Okay, if we just take a look at what this is essentially just a number. So I'm going to hashtag this out and paste this. This is essentially just argmax. And in fact, pandas actually supports argmax. So I could say argmax here, and it would get me the same answer. And that's essentially where I want to find this person. So I can say sal dot either ILOC or LOC, since it matches up, and I still get Nathaniel Ford. Okay, you can go ahead and review the solutions notebook if you're interested in this method, but hopefully you figured out either this one or this more advanced method. Let's go ahead and continue on. Now we want to know what's the name of the lowest paid person including benefits. And do you notice something strange about how much he or she is paid? So we want the lowest paid person. Let's go ahead and do it the advanced method. So I'm going to say sal of total pay benefits argmin or idxmin. Notice here we have 148,653. That is the ID location, so I can pass this into sal.iloc, and this returns the employee's name, Joe Lopez. Now, to notice something strange here is that this person is actually receiving negative pay, meaning for some reason this person actually owes San Francisco money through some sort of weird situation. But hopefully you're able to get Joe Lopez as the answer. This is the more advanced method of doing it with argmin, but you could have also done the following. You could have said sal of total pay benefits equals sal of total pay benefits dot min, and then just pass this into sal. And this would have also returned Joe Lopez, counselor who owes the city of San Francisco money. All right. Now let's talk about what was the average. In this case, I am going to give you the answer. Mean base pay of all employees per year. Okay, now we want to use a group by. So I'm going to say sal.group by year. And I want the average, in this case mean. And if I just report this, I get everything averaged by year, and I just want the base pay. So I'm going to call base pay off of this column, off of this data frame, excuse me. And there we go, the average base pay of all employees per year. And we can see that it slowly went up. 2011, 2012 started going up, and then 2014 it went down a little. The next question we wanted to answer was how many unique job titles are there? And that's actually quite easy. You just say sal job title, and then remember there's quite a few functions or methods you can use for grabbing unique values. The one we want is not unique, because that actually returns an array of all the unique values, but we want n unique, which returns the number of unique values. You could have also done the length of this unique output, and that would have returned the same thing. But the easier way to do this is not with length, but just with n unique. Now we want to know what are the top 5 most common jobs. Well, you can do this by saying sal of job title dot value counts, and then call the top 5 of this. And this returns the top 5 most common job titles. Okay, the next question we wanted to answer was how many job titles were represented by only one person in 2013? Otherwise, just job titles with only one occurrence in 2013. So there's a couple conditions we want to do. We want to figure out the job titles as value counts, figure out where they're only equal to 1, but we also want to make sure we only do this for the 2013 year. So let's go ahead and break this down. I want to grab Sal, where the year is equal to 2013. Then I'm going to go ahead and grab the job title column off of this and perform value counts on this. And here I have value counts, very similar to what we just did above here, but now this is only for the year 2013. And what I'm going to do off of this is ask, where is this equal to 1? And now I get some Boolean values. False is up here, and true is down here, where this was all equal to 1. And I want to figure out, well, what's the actual count of this occurrence? I can just actually take the sum of this, and it'll return 202. And that's the fastest and easiest way to know how many job titles were represented by only one person in 2013. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next one, which is also quite tricky, which is how many people have the word chief in their job title. In order to do this, we'll have to make a custom function. Let's go ahead and check out what job title looks like as a column. So you have job title. Notice everything is in uppercase for the most part, but let's go ahead and scroll down, and now we see that there's lowercase. So what we're going to have to do is make sure to take this into account. And what we're going to do is create a function in order to do this. We're going to say chief string takes in title, and if chief is in title.lower.split, return true, else return false. Let's go ahead and break down what this function is actually doing. I'm going to grab just a random title here, General Manager, Metropolitan Transit Authority. I'm going to grab this string and pass it into chief string. Whoops. Let me copy and paste this one more time. Here we go. And notice I get false, which makes sense because chief isn't in that title. Now let's go ahead and change this to something like chief manager. If I run this, now I get true. And what's actually happening is it's taking in this title, just that string, it's applying .lower on it, which makes everything here in the string lowercase, and then it goes ahead and splits it into a list. And then it checks if the string chief is in that list and returns true or false. And that means I can just go ahead and apply this using lambda x, and then I'm going to just say chief string on x. And then I get these Boolean values, false, 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 true, true, true. And I have a couple methods here of actually counting these up, but we've seen before that the fastest way to do this is just to take the sum of this. And here we have 477 people have the word chief in their job title. Okay, finally, the last one, which is actually a bonus question because it has a method we haven't gone over yet, which is correlation. And we want to know, is there a correlation between length of the job title string and salary? Let's go ahead and make a new column called title_len, and it's going to be equal to the job title column, and I'm going to apply the length built-in method for this. So now if I take a look at these two columns, job title, whoops, and title length, here I have the length of the title and the job title itself. Now what I want to do is see if there's a correlation between these two. And the method you had to discover on your own, which is why this is a bonus question, is CORR. And that returns the correlation between multiple columns. But here, what we actually wanted to know was the correlation between length of job title string and salary. So this makes sense that this is perfectly correlated, but what we want to do is title length and actually total pay benefits column. And here we can see that there's essentially no correlation between how long your title is and how much you get paid. Okay, don't worry if you didn't get this last one. It was quite tricky and hard, but it had some methods that we didn't go over, which is why it was a bonus question. All right, hopefully you felt okay as you went through this. Remember, they get harder and harder, so don't feel too bad if you weren't able to get the last couple ones, since those are actually quite tricky. But you can always review the solutions notebook in case you want more practice with this, or just go ahead and post it to the Q&A forums if you have any questions. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you at the next lecture.